What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Bitcoin and Crypto News. I hope you're having a great day, and thanks for joining me for today's video. Today is Thursday, July 29th, 2021, and we're going to take a look at some of the price action along with some of the top news stories for today. So without any further ado, let's head over to CoinGecko and check out some of the price action. So as you can see, the market is really just trading sideways. If you look at the 24-hour chart, Bitcoin is down 1.8%, Ethereum's down 0.2%, Binance Coin is down 0.9%, Cardano 1%, XRP 0.9%. Really the only coin that's positive in the top 10 is Polkadot, and that's only up 2.6%. So not much has been going on today. This is on the heels of a very good week where Bitcoin is up 22.4%. And still trying to find its footing. It's been rejected at 40K now for at least the third or fourth time. So definitely got to try to make that support. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if Bitcoin can get back over $40,000 or if it's going to stay here in the 30,000 range. Okay, and that's enough of the price action. Let's get into the news. Our first news story comes to us from the IMF. Before we dive into the crypto-specific news, let's get into an issue that has been an extremely hot topic in every country around the world, and that is inflation. Allow me to take you back a few months ago when Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and Janet Yellen, who is the Secretary of the Treasury, both dismissed the early signs of inflation, referring to it as transitory. Many in the financial world and media around the country all took them at their word and agreed, yeah, it's only going to be transitory. This, of course, was after them telling us all of last year that there will be no inflation, so don't worry as we increase the money supply, levels that make the printing that went on in 2008 look like pocket change. Now here we are at present day with prices for nearly everything you can buy soaring. If you look around, the cost of gas is up, housing is up, used and new cars are up, food is up, travel is up. Anything that you want to spend your money on has increased in price. We have an article from Tuesday that comes on the heels of a recent IMF announcement where they warned that inflation could prove to be persistent and central banks may need to act. Where they stated that higher prices increase the chances that central banks will start to curb their ultra-accommodative monetary policies, such as tapering off market-friendly stimulus like asset purchases. And as we look around the globe, the United States is not the only country that's dealing with inflation. Coming out of Germany, there's breaking news that their inflation level exceeded 3% for the first time since 2008. On a month-over-month basis, prices rose by 0.09% from June to July. And honestly, I'm not buying that 0.09%, or even really the 3% inflation rate, because if you know anything about the numbers that the government gives us, they are usually very wrong. Switching from Germany to Turkey, on Thursday, Turkey's central bank raised its year-end inflation forecast to 14.1%, bringing it closer to, but still below, market expectations as the bank's governor predicted inflation would fall significantly in the fourth quarter. Looking at prior months, a Reuters poll this week showed economists expect inflation, which rose 17.53% in June, would hit 18.5% in July and remain elevated at 16% through the end of 2021. In Turkey, inflation isn't the only thing that's harming the country. Their currency, the lira, has weakened by 14% this year. However, it's not only countries that are feeling the pain of inflation, but also major companies. In the news recently, we have seen major companies like Chipotle announce they're going to be raising prices. On Thursday, major food and beverage companies announced that they are going to also have to increase prices in response to higher input costs. Some of the most notable companies that have announced their need to increase prices to offset the higher cost include Nestle, Anheuser-Busch, Procter & Gamble, Whirlpool, and many others. Our next story brings us over to Nestle specifically, who sell everything from ice cream to coffee to soft drinks and cereal, said that due to the cost inflation that will squeeze their margins, they are left with no other option aside from raising their prices. So clearly the cat is out of the bag here, and inflation, at least for the meantime, appears to be here to stay. Something that we have all heard over the past few months and year is that inflation is transitory. And the way that it is being presented to us is as if it is a good thing, or at the very least, not really that bad of a thing. But no one has taken the time and explained what they mean when they say transitory. Yesterday, during an interview on CNBC, Jerome Powell was asked just that question. So let's hear what he had to say in regards to what transitory inflation is.
The concept of transitory is really this. It is that the increases will happen. We're not saying they will reverse. That's not what transitory means. It means that the increases in prices will happen. So there will be inflation, but that the process of inflation will stop so that there won't be further. When we think of inflation, we really think of inflation going up year upon year upon year upon year. That's inflation. When you have inflation for 12 months or whatever it may be, I'm just taking an example, I'm not making an estimate, then you have a price increase, but you don't have an inflation process. And so part of that just is that if it doesn't affect longer-term inflation expectations, then it's very likely not to affect the process of inflation going forward. So what I mean by transitory is just something that doesn't leave a permanent mark on the inflation process. Again, I don't mean that producers are going to take those price increases back. That's not the idea. It's just that they won't go on indefinitely. So to the extent people are implementing price increases because raw materials are going up or labor costs or something's going up, the question really for inflation really is, does that mean they're going to go up the next year by the same amount? So you're going to be in a process where the inflation process gets going, and that happens because people's expectations about future inflation move up, and we don't think that's happening. There's no evidence that it's happening. All the evidence is that it's not happening. But nonetheless, we have to watch this very carefully because this is, we have two mandates: maximum employment and price stability. Price stability for us means inflation averaging 2% over time, and so we've got to be very careful about that. But I think it's a good point that it's a term. What it really means is temporary.
The part that stuck out to me the most was where he said that there's no evidence that inflation will continue to move up. All the evidence is that it is not happening, despite the fact that when you look around at anything you try to buy, the prices have went up, and there is an expectation that they will continue to go up. Also, as he wraps up his statement, going back to what the term transitory really means, he says it's a term that means temporary. But earlier in the clip, he mentions that the prices will most likely not go back down, meaning that once the companies increase these prices, like Chipotle just did recently, they will not lower them back down, even if inflation does return to its normal expected 2% rate. Now, I'm no economist or anything like that, but when I hear something's temporary, but then in the very same sentence, they say we do not expect the prices to return back to normal or what they were prior, that really sounds more like a permanent change to me more than transitory. Essentially, as long as inflation is less than 5.4% next June, which it was in this June, Jerome Powell believes that means the inflation was transitory. Don't forget, this isn't just some random person on CNBC. Jerome Powell is one of the most influential and powerful people in the financial world, which should cause concern about the stability of our money. What is being greatly underreported is not the fact that these prices are going up, it's that they are not going to come back down. Sure, some like lumber, which part of the increase in price has been due to supply issues, may come down a little, but it's certainly not going to go back to the same price as it was prior to 2020. We live in a world where technology is making things cheaper and cheaper over time. Look at the device you're watching this on right now. How many things can that one single device do that we used to require separate devices for? For instance, if it's your phone, think of all of the products you no longer need. This device used to simply just make calls. Now it's a calculator, an alarm clock, your iPod, your camera, your computer to browse the web. You don't need a GPS anymore. And that's just scratching the surface. We can list hundreds of things that this one device does now. And that's just one product. As technology continues to advance and become more and more deflationary, then you have to ask yourself, if the rest of the world is going deflationary, why is our money being inflated away? And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is why Bitcoin will succeed. That's enough on inflation. Let's transition over to some cryptocurrency news. A recent study conducted by Crypto.com discovered that the crypto population doubled to over 200 million users since January. It's important to point out this is since January of 2021, which was just 7 months ago. And in fact, it only took 4 months for the crypto population to almost double from 106 million in February to 203 million in May. And as things like inflation continue to rise and governments continue to rob their citizens of their purchasing power, this is a trend that will surely continue. The last bit of news I want to go over today is not in the crypto market, but instead in the traditional stock market. So despite all this negative news of inflation, jobless claims being higher than expected, and the overall recovery in the economy being slower than expected, the Dow Jones has hit yet another all-time high. The GDP in the United States during the second quarter accelerated to 6.5%, which was considerably less than the 8.4% that was expected. Another data point showed that 400,000 people filed initial claims for unemployment benefits for the week ending July 24th. That level is nearly double the pre-pandemic norm and above the Dow Jones estimate of 385,000. No matter where you look, everything is pointing to a downturn. Despite that, the stock market and the Dow Jones continue to reach new all-time highs at this point on a weekly basis. This is just another example of the impact that all of the fake money that was printed over the last 18 months and it is skewing what the numbers should be saying. And again, this is why I choose to buy and hold Bitcoin. That's the last bit of news I have for you. I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. If you've enjoyed the content, be sure to like the video and also subscribe for more. It really helps the channel grow. Also, leave your comments down below. Do you think inflation's here to stay, or do you agree with Jerome Powell and it's just transitory and it will pass with time? Once again, thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.